Hello, everybody. Michelle Davis here, and welcome to my knitting podcast. I am an Australian knitter at the beginning of their journey. I'm in my first 6 months of knitting, and I wanted to share with you what I've been making, what I would like to be making, and what are my future plans moving forward. All right, so I have a couple of FOs. I've got a lot of whips, and it's a lot of hot weather here in Australia at the moment. We've had a lot of rain. I'm in southeast Queensland, lots and lots of rain, and we haven't had that nice change of season where it's cooled down. What's happened is after all the rain, it's gotten really muggy, and to the point where we're putting on our air conditioner, and we should be heading into very cool weather by now, and we're totally not. Considering it's past the middle of autumn, and we should be hitting winter in the next 2 weeks. The cooler weather is definitely far, far away, which is devastating for me because I've made like 2 finished sweaters and I'm so excited to wear them, but I can't because it's just too warm still. So, wherever the cold weather is, can you please send it into Queensland? That would be amazing because as a first time knitter, I've knit things and I can't wear them. Really frustrating. All right. So I have some notes. If you hear my mouse clicking, I apologize. That's just me making sure that I share with you everything I have so that I can keep myself on task. Alrighty, so let's share. My first finished object in the last few months, because it's been a while, is a mystery knit along that I did, and it was in the thumbnail, and it is this beautiful shawl. It is the As You Wish shawl for the Princess Bride that, here we go. First time I need my notes. Marianne put together. Sorry, you're going to hear the clicking now. It is just so lovely. And it's still, I wore this morning because I'm just like, I'm wearing it. It's the middle of May. It's somewhat a little bit cool with a short sleeve thing on. I want to put this on, wrap it around, go around. Nope, it's off. And even the long pants I had on, off, too warm. So this is by Mary Annarella, and she does these mystery knit alongs. I found her, and as a beginning knitter, I'm like, I have no idea what this is about. A shawl, and I looked at what she has been styling before, and it's like these rectangle sort of scarf type shawls. And so I'm like, when it gets cool, I wear a lot of those. So I'm like, I wear a lot of scarves because I've never knit anything for myself before. So I'm like, I'm in. I have no idea what a mystery knit along looks like. What do I need to do? So I just jumped in. There was a Facebook group to support me as well. And the Facebook group is still going. Like, this was meant to be a 5-week mystery knit along. I took longer than 5 weeks. I kept track of my dates. So we started in mid-April and I finished and it's mid-May. So I don't think I've done too badly considering. I chose colors for my first one that I wear a lot. So I wear lots of pinks and plums and purples. I wear a lot of jewel tones. So this is like a jade green kind of color, a teal, and then that mustard kind of color. My winter wardrobe is filled with these, and most of them are just plain light 3/4 sleeve shirts. And so I'm like, right, I'm going to choose something that will go with everything and is quite striking because I do love to wear like a bold lipstick. And so I'm like, this is going to look amazing, and it does. So happy. And it didn't take a long because it was hard. It just took a long time because I got distracted by other things. And when I decided, nope, this is the thing I needed to do. This isn't walking around type knitting. Like, I couldn't transport it places, especially once it got past a certain length. I had to be in a spot where it sat on my lap comfortably. And so that ended up being a TV knitting. And so I actually had to find things to watch on TV so I could listen to something while I was knitting. Kind of the opposite way around, really, isn't it? So the yarn is just a cheap, it's called Alpaca Wool by Mally, and it is in 50-gram balls, and I knit the slightly longer length. So in the pattern Mary gives, so that's the start, and then towards the end, I think the last Boulders and Swords is here. So then it was meant to have this end part here, and then she said you could go back to page blah blah and repeat to get some extra length. And when I put it around me, knowing the style that I like to wear, I put the extra length. I also had the yarn. So I'm like, well, if I've got the yarn and I've already broken into both of my second balls, so I was into that between 50 and 100 grams of the yarn so far, I may as well just keep on keeping on. So in this yarn, it is about half of it is wool, half of it is acrylic. This is the color Fig. This is the color Blush, this pinky color. This is called Sunshine, and that's called Teal. So pretty standard names. In Australia, I got it from knittingco.com, and it was very easy to get. And I kept the price down and chose something simple because I'm a beginning knitter. I don't know how the yarns all work and function. I'm also in a warmer climate, so I'm just not sure about how, if I make something, the making is the joy. How do I wear it? Which is what my whole purpose for this year is to try out what I do actually wear. What do I get attracted to versus what I actually end up using. So I really can't wait to use this. I'm so excited. It blocked quite nicely. There was a couple of places where it's quite tight. At the beginning, when we were doing, because I've never done slip stitching patterning before. And so this section here was super duper tight, followed by this section here was quite tight as well. And I was worried because then by the end, I've knit 2 sweaters by the end time I came to the other end. So it's nice and loose. And so I'm like, oh, I hope this magic thing that people talk about with blocking, because blocking acrylic doesn't quite, I assume, based on my experience, people talk about blocking wool and it's meant to like stretch out a little bit and you can give yourself some extra relaxation. With acrylic, I haven't found that to be true. What you get at the end after you block it tends to be just a nicer materially version of what you've already knit. The size doesn't seem to change too much. Whereas the blocking, actually, I could lay it out and I could stretch back the tightness that was sort of happening at that beginning part, and it was really good. And so that's my first finished object. Bring me the cold weather so I can wear it. Okay, the next finished object I have was actually, I was in between projects and I had stopped in at my local yarn store and was like wandering around thinking about a project. And I had my youngest daughter with me, and she goes, Mum, this is adorable, and showed me a cake. I don't have the cakes anymore, of this sweet roll. So this is by Premier, and it has a bunch of different sorts. This was called Rock Candy. And so I said, well, that's really pretty, baby. What would you like? She goes, I don't know, just a striped thing. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I definitely think one's going to be not enough. So let's grab 2 and Mummy will figure it out from there. And there was only 2 on the shelf anyway for the colorway she chose. So off we go home, and I needed to figure out what she wants. So she's only 7, turning 8 this week, actually. She goes, I want a turtleneck. Okay. But I want it short sleeve because I don't like long sleeve, which is true. And I want it cropped. I'm like, right. So I thought about, well, I'd also like to make a turtleneck. That's when it gets when it gets cold. I like to have my neck warm, which is why I tend to wear a lot of scarves, and a lot of things I wear are layer appropriate. So I might wear a V-neck to be able to give me coolness, but then as it gets cool, I like to put something on. So I'm like, a bigger pattern. She's technically a small sized mini human now. What if I could buy a pattern that had a small enough size for her chest with some room and bagginess, because that's how she likes to wear things, and I can just take some stitches off here and there to crop it, and I could potentially use as well. So the pattern I ended up choosing is, I want to go back to my notes, the Novice Sweater by Petite Knit. So super duper popular. I've heard about it before from people, and it has a big range of sizes, and the gauge was pretty close to what I needed. So I thought, well, this is it. We're just going to give it a go. And I did. So we have come up with this. So it's a self-striping yarn that was in the cake. And so what I did is and it just worked out well, which happens when, I'm like, sure, baby, I'll do you something. Let's go. So the color changes here up until this one here are all completely natural on pattern for the extra small size. It worked beautifully. I did do a twisted rib at the top because I actually found that I quite like what a twisted rib looks like. it makes my knitting look better. So I did that. And then when we got to here, I actually took the next ball because it wasn't in the same order anymore. And I just pulled apart all the colors. So I had little tiny balls of the teal color, the purple, and then the light. And then, so I knew where I got to here. I did a bit of this, which was finishing off one part of it. Then I used a bigger section to do the teal arms. Brought them in, so it's nice little puffy type sleeve, which is quite cute. And then finished off the bottom. And it looks really adorable on her, and she loves it. But almost every scrap is used up in that sweater. But I did make her. Oh, where is it? I made her a scrunchie to go with it. I had a little bit of yarn left over, like a little bit of a ball, and of the light purple shade. And so I decided to make a scrunchie for her. So she's got a scrunchie that goes with her sweater, and she's worn it heaps. So much. She's always wearing this with a pair of little shorts on, and then she'll swap out of it because it gets too warm because, again, like I said, we're not there yet in our cool weather. So they're my two finished objects. And now I have a stack of whips. Now, I like different types of whips going on at different times because I find that I will want to take something somewhere and I want to think, and I'm really happy to play in pattern. And sometimes I just want something really simple and just want to keep stockinette. And once a project gets to a certain size, I find that because I'm a larger person, I need to sit somewhere specific or have it weighted in my lap or on a table to knit because there's so much of the jumper / sweater or size of project that I've got. So I'm really happy to have a lot of different projects on the go. I tend to knit a bit on everything, and then it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, that project, you're close. Let's get going. So let's go with the one I'm working on the most, which totally breaks that rule, which is I figured I'd make a ranunculus because every lady and her knitting needles has almost made, if you're a garment knitter, you're making a ranunculus. So I decided to do one. I looked at the pattern, bought it, looked at it, and it says that I don't need, I know it's quite a loose gauge, and I know that different people do very modified bits and pieces. So I thought I'd give one a go. I question the amount of meters and yarn it says to use because I don't think that will create something that will fit me well in the length. For me, it's always about length of the body. I don't do cropped. I might try this season to get some high-waisted skirts where I can tuck things in, but with the shape of my body and how I like to have myself presentable, I question that I need the amount of yarn that it says. So I am making a ranunculus in this yarn here. So I'm just going to move that. So this is an heirloom yarn. I can't find it anywhere else on the internet. I picked it up at one of my other local yarn shops down on the Gold Coast called TK Yarns. It was in her specials basket. There was only 8 balls of this. So that is 840 meters I have. And it's 40% wool and 60% wool, 40% acrylic. So it's the highest content of wool I've had in something. And this is part of my journey of knitting, is that I'm not going to invest large amounts of money in something until I know what I like best. And that's a lesson learned because I broke my own rule. Coming up. So this is quite a nice, I think it's quite round, it's quite twisted yarn based on how other people describe yarns. Not that I know very much, but we're often racing. Now, when people say the ranunculus pattern is fun, it so is. It's really addictive. Like the pattern work at the top, simple yet effective. So here it is so far. Just going to see what you can see. All right. So it's got, I'm following everything to pattern-ish. So there's always little bits of modification. First up, when I read all the comments, people said that the cast-on size at the top is too small. And I think, right, okay, fair enough. Everyone's saying it's too small. So everyone says do 90. So I did the 90 and did a stretchy bind on. And I did the short rows because I'm just going to follow the pattern to do my first one to see how it works, because I bought this for a steal. I've got it. It's such an odd amount of yarn to be able to make a garment to fit my body that I'll give it a crack. and it's meant to be quite a loose gauge. So I always gauge swatch. I always look at what it looks like. And this made a beautiful fabric, but it is a little, it's not see-through like most of the, that's not what I want it for. I want a 3/4 sleeve type top to wear. And so it's going really nice. I'm able to try it on. So I use Knit Pro needles, which come with the interchangeable set. And I can get cables. So I have the 150 centimeter, the 1.5 meter cable, currently just resting. So I'd finished a ball of yarn there, and I've just decided to stop on the body for the minute and see how the arms go. For me, because I have such large upper arms, I want to make sure that I've got enough stitches in there to make sure it's comfortable. And I'm knitting quite a small size because playing yarn chicken, but also my last few sweaters have been very loose. I think I'm bigger than what I actually am. Even though I'm measuring myself, I'm always choosing to round up. And I'm like, for this yarn, for this price, for this experiment, I'm going to round down. So that's what I've done. So this is quite fitted when I pop it on, but it sits nicely. It's a smidgen too tight at the back of the arm. So I do wonder whether or not I needed to do like the size 3 extra couple of rounds of raglan increases potentially. So you can see the stitches are there and they're kind of pulled a little. But again, because I'm playing yarn chicken, I don't know. If I want to rip back the sleeves later on, it doesn't take me very long to knit the sleeves. So I've spent the morning on them, and like I've gone a good distance. So again, I will get to about here on my arm. Lovely dog scratch there. So about here. So I've got quite a large upper arm, and I like most of mine to sit just below here. So I'm going to knit straight, which is what I tend to do for most. Knit straight for here and then start my decreases, because I've got such a bulk of upper arm that I want to get past first, which is what attracts me about knitting. I can customize. Yeah. So going nicely. I've tried it on. It's firm. It's going well. The stitches and the sleeves I could probably have done with a couple of extra, but I don't want to rip it back yet because I just want to see how it's going to go. So I think I might end up using one ball to do, I might take a ball and a half to do the loose sleeves and then see if I can get the length, and then I can pull back whatever I need to and just modify it. But again, it's my first experiment. I'm cool to just play with it, and I'm just having so much fun knitting it. I find that in my stockinette, I have I think it's called like a knitting signature. My knit stitches are not a nice V. One's straight and one's real nice little curvy. So I end up with this real sort of pattern in my stockinette. Hold it still. Interesting. So if you're an experienced knitter, I'm assuming, because I'm English style, full English style, wrapping that yarn around. I think it's because of the way I do that. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm right. And if you've seen that in somewhere in your journey, and you've got a different way you've got it as another suggestion, like that's good, stay that. I don't mind. I think it's me. That's the whole point of this. It's knitting and it's me, and I don't care. If I did want to fix it, what would be my avenue to make my V's look more standard, like the V's of a knit stitch? So, yeah. Anyway, that's I love this. I can't get rid of it. I don't have a project bag for this. This is just sitting in one of those calico bags that you can get. And my friend made me a goodbye present, and so she sewed a pocket on the back and put something from her Cricut and put a vinyl on the front. That's lovely, and it's fine. It just ponkers around. All right, ranunculus, going hard on it at the moment as my first whip. My next one is my blueberry pie. So I have some Spotlight Mill Ends yarn. I don't think I've got a whole ball of it. No, I don't. Devo, I need to go grab one. Oh, there was that scrunchie from before. Just made a little scrunchie. So this is an acrylic yarn. I'm at the end of this ball, and I haven't got the next one in here yet. So this is from our Mill Ends, which are just plastic bags, $10 a bag for about 150 grams of yarn. Mystery, no tags, lucky guess. And I would say that this is like a no-peel acrylic. it's quite a thick yarn, and so it's a I'd say it's an Aran based on other things I've used. When I look at the sweet roll, that was an Aran weight roll size. So that's what I think this is. And I wanted something in this because pink is, oh, I love this. It's so nice. I can't wait. And because it's thick, I'm like, right, I'm making that big all over sort of a textured pattern. So I've chosen the blueberry pie pattern. And let me get to my notes. It is by Johanna Kunin, and it is this lovely all over texture. So let me show you. It's getting warm in here and I'm getting quite glowy. So this is where I am in the yoke so far. So she's firm. She's got a lot of stretch in her still. Like it's got because it's all cabled with bobbles. I'm doing my bobbles using a crochet hook. So to be able to get them to stand out like little blueberries, blueberry pie. And the top is all pastry. And in between the diamonds, we've got some garter sometimes. We've got seed stitch sometimes. We've also got stockinette sometimes. And so there's all these different kinds of stitches in between. I am on the last chart at the moment, not quite halfway in the last chart. So I've done the first chart and there's another one. And then I will be splitting for sleeves. So this is it. And I am making a size that is mine plus a bit because this is quite a thick kind of fabric. But it's so lovely. I love it. Anyway, so that's my blueberry pie mystery yarn from the Mill Ends bag. I picked this up when I need to, I'm happy to think, because it's a 12-ish at the moment. I think it's 12 or 15 centimeter, 12 or 15 stitch repeat at the moment. And so every round follows the same kind of repeat. I do need to use a cable needle to be able to move things because the yarn is so thick, and I'm using 4mm needles. That's correct. Yes. Yeah, 4.5mm needles. And so I'm really loving this. I'm loving how it's going. It's exactly how I thought it would look in my head. And I have 3 bags of this because it was on special one time and I got 3 bags for $15. So that's going away nicely. Oh, that's my pattern looking a bit scrunched. And as you know, as a beginner knitter, I like to print my pattern and then I like to highlight as I'm going. So I'm not going to show you, like, I make all sorts of notes like on my pattern. Like I'm making notes around like what combinations repeat these 2 rows over and over again, but they keep going up in number. So I write them down. And then when I'm looking at my charts, I like to highlight as I go so I don't lose track, but I only highlight it after I've gone completely all the way around because I was highlighting and then starting it and forgetting where I was if I put it down. So that's been good. And to help me keep track, I've got stitch markers, those every 15 stitches. So I don't have to think, I just come across them. And these stitch markers are just from Amazon and a big chunk of 300 of them. And so every time I come across one of those, I know I'm starting that pattern again. And when the numbers don't work out, I've stuffed up. And so I can go back only in that section and figure out what the mistake has been and correct it rather than trying to keep up with where I am. So that's been really, really lovely. And I think I might do a separate video of that. Okay, so that is my next WIP, and it is not getting as much love anymore as it was because the ranunculus has taken over because of the speed of it. It's just so quick, big needles. All right, that's that one. I've got blueberry pie. Next one is, my Hokey Pokey. Okay, so my Hokey Pokey has only stopped being in love again. Don't have a project bag. This is a Miller's $5 bag when you buy something at Miller's, which is like a store for ladies of a certain age or sort of shop. And they have these, they used to have these $5 bags, which are really good sweater jumper bags. So I'm making the Hokey Pokey. So the Hokey Pokey is a cotton and wool yarn. And then I've added in some faux mohair, so fake mohair. So this is my Holy Moly. And the only reason I'm not working on this anymore is that she's heavy. She's heavy. I finished one sleeve. I've got, again, I do that thing where I get sort of to halfway through the body and then stop. And then I've got started the next sleeve. I've stolen the nice cable I had on here to go on to, what do I need to start the neckline of the ranunculus. And so I need to get my little cable back. I bought some more. Obviously, if I'm stealing them from one project to another, I just need more of them. So I bought another cable. But this is quite a nice and easy. I chose, so the yarn is mulled. Again, it was one of those, I went into Spotlight. It's called Moda Vera yarn, and it is cotton and wool, and it's in a blue color. Ooh, here we go. It's this. And it was like $2 a ball, and there was heaps of them. So I'm like, right, I'm going to grab a whole bunch, and I'm going to find, like, I'm starting to figure out, I'm looking at meterage of the yarn to figure out how many balls I need. And so I think I just bought 12 because that was like 20 something dollars. And I'm like, sweet, done. I found a pattern, and because this is a mulled yarn, like it's got the white and then it's got the blue fuzz. So it's got the cotton, which is the white, and the blue fuzz, which is the wool. I wanted something that didn't distract from the cool, like if it was going to be mulled, it may as well go for it. And because that's my other reason, is because it's white and blue. If it was something that was lacy and I was wearing a white and or blue camisole underneath, which is often how I wear things in winter, it wouldn't matter if it had holes because I would have another layer underneath, and I have a lot of white and blue undershirts anyway, so I may as well like just embrace, I want something that has holes all the way through it. So that's what I've chosen. So it's a 8-row repeat all the way through the sweater, where it's got these eyelets and it kind of waves as it goes down as you're doing it. So 8 rows, all repeat. And so you'll have a row with some yarn overs, another knit row. Then the next row will have some yarn overs and some knit togethers, and then a knit row. And so you're just going backwards and forwards between all of that as you go through. And so it's lovely. I changed the neckline so it was a bit more open. Again, like I said, having things close to my neck is not what we're used to in Queensland. So gave myself a little bit of a neck, because when you did this, did the back to where you split the sleeves, and then we picked up stitches and started moving forward. And so as we were moving forward, instead of joining really quickly, I just kept a really straight pattern and then joined. So it created a round, and then just picked up and did a neckband with just a couple of rows of twisted rib. Let's use the pretty side. So that's going beautifully. And the only reason I haven't picked it up is because it's heavy. It's at the point now where I need to sit it on my lap and do it. And it's heavy and fluffy and lovely. It's a dense fabric. It's just too hot yet. It's at the sides where it's really awkward. Like if you're zipping around doing a sleeve, you're like constantly moving it everywhere. And so I've just put it down for the time being. And it's not quite mindless knitting because there is a repeat. It's easy, but I need to keep track of it at the same time. And if I'm not careful, I can stuff up what that looks like. So it's not mindless. It's sort of semi-thinking. So yeah, it hasn't made it to the top of the barrel, because I'd love to be able to sit in the corner of my lounge and just snuggle up with it. And I just can't. She's too big at the moment. So that is my Holy Moly by Pearl Foundry. It is. All right. So if I look through here, we are up to, they are all my active WIPs at this point in time. There is one more. It's on freeze at the moment. I'm waiting for some needles to come in. I'm making my daughter the Paint Box Yarns bubble cardigan, and I needed a longer cable and needles. They've just come in, so I can pick up and do the button band. That's the cardigan band. I've done all the rest of it. Just need to finish it off, and it's somewhere else ready to roll, and I forgot to bring it in. So we'll do that next time. All right. So I keep swinging this way. It's because that's where my trolley is with all my yarny bits. It's got an IKEA trolley, and it's just got all my project bags and stuff in it. So what have I been buying? I use Knit Pro, lots and lots of needles and cables, just figuring out that I like lots of WIPs. I like to have a couple of short cables for the sleeves. I like a medium, like a 60 to 80 centimeter cable to do the body. And I like a 150 meter cable floating around between the projects to be able to try it on comfortably. So I went and bought some more of those so that I could have all those options. I use Knit Pro Zing, the shorties ones. They aren't super duper short like the, what's brand? The big brand. The little ones. Anyway, they're sort of like, they're that medium size that I was showing you before on the ranunculus. So they're not too big, not too small, but they do, because of my underarms, I can get around the sleeve with a little cable and the 2 needles and sleeve without having to do magic loops. So these are the difference in size. So this is a normal zing length, and this is the shorties zing length. And so just by taking off that extra inch on the top means I can put 2 of these on the end of a short cable. I can still knit, and I can zip around the sleeve quite easily. And then as I come down in size, I tend to swap to down, and I'm starting to get a collection of these now too. The little 9-inch ones. So I've got some different sizes now in these. So I just go, what's my closest size down to do some ribbing? This one, that'll do. And just go for it. So that is there as well. Okay, so I've been buying different combinations of needles. I've almost got now, from dropping in over the last few months, like a full set of zings of all different sizes, so that I've got a set of needles floating around somewhere to be able to fit anything that I have got working at the moment. I like to swatch as well and plan ahead. And so I like to have some needles just chilling around so I can quickly swatch up something if I've grabbed it, or send a pattern for a different batch of yarn that I have and figuring out if it'll work. So I've been doing a lot of that. So I've been buying lots of little needles. I have made my first big mistake in buying yarn. Not a mistake, just an advanced purchase of an excessive amount of yarn that I don't quite need yet. So I want to make Laura from Penrose Knits her souffle. Now, so I want to get some mohair. In Australia, finding mohair at a price that is okay can be a little bit of a challenge. And so pricing and then getting the kind of color I want and the quantity I want. That's the other thing, is that I can find something, but there won't be enough of it to be able to make me a sweater. So I decided to, I ended up through a bunch of research just ordering some from the UK through Amazon. And so I ordered some Kid Silk. The name's eluding me right now. Drops, Kid Silk. There we go. So this is, there's no like super big, there's no large acrylic. This is what I mean by my fancy yarn. There's not a large acrylic base in this. I'm like, oh, she's real. So I bought enough of this to be able to make a souffle. It came in. I did my swatch, and then the wheels fell apart. So my wheels fell apart because in my little swatch, so I do my swatches in the round where you just drag the yarn from the back around. So I'm just going round and round and round. And I did the 1 strand of mohair at the top. Let me move this closer. 1 strand of mohair at the top, 2 strands of mohair here. And when I did that, I don't think I'm a double mohair person. I know this sounds obvious. It's too hairy. Not that it's not soft and beautiful and not like all of those things are fine. I don't like this style of fabric, and I've sat on it. So I made it and I got shocked at how much I didn't like it. And then all like, okay, what do I do now? So I had a play. I did have some from my scarf, from my shawl. I had some of this left over, which is just the Melly. I have like a nugget left, like this much left over from my shawl after 2 balls. So I'm like, okay, well, what if I held that double with 1 strand of mohair? And I like that fabric better. It's still too big though. This is too thick because this is only supposed to be 2 lace weight, and this is that's a fingering weight. So that's too thick. And then my ply, so a couple of ways, I could size differently, etc. But then also, like, I bought, as you can tell by the way I described it, like I bought like proper real yarn, like, and I don't want to then sully it by mixing it with something that is acrylic. Like the whole point of this is to have something that is made of animal fibers. And so I'm like, oh, what do I do now? So I slept on it for a few days, mulled it over, showed some people, got them to, like, we've been wearing it as like a little bracelet. And we're like, what does that feel like? How is that nice? yes, that feels nice, but it's just, I'm not a super dainty. I like being girly, but I'm not super dainty. So it just felt too easy for me to pull, tear. It's too thin. It's also somewhat still see-through, but that's, I know that like it's going to happen, but it was just too much. Like the top part I'm cool with, but it's the next layer down that I wasn't a fan of. That double mohair is too something. Too furry, not heavy enough. I don't know. So what I've done is, now that I know I like one mohair strand with something else, what I need is like a thin wool or something equivalent yarn to go with this, so I could do the rest of the body and the sleeve for my souffle, but want to keep it light. So what I found is at an Australian shop called Bendigo Woolen Mills. They do a cone of like a 2 and a 3 ply 100% merino, and so I've ordered one of those. I think I ordered the 3 ply because the 2 ply didn't come in anything that was close to my color. Whereas there is a teal in the 3 ply. So I've ordered a cone. It comes in a cone. It's got 2,000 meters on it. And so I've ordered that. So that means I can start that. It's in transit now. So that was my first. I bought something and I invested in it, and then found out I don't think I need to ever worry about a double mohair sweater because that's not my jam. So I have now almost 2 sweater quantities worth of teal colored mohair it's called petrol, the color in here, that I need to do something with. So I'm just going to do a souffle with this other stuff, and future Michelle can have something else fluffy and teal, or somebody else can. I don't know. We'll find out. So that is my first acquisition, was that, and then it falling apart. And then the other one, which now goes into, so that's one of my future knits. So that future knit is going to be the souffle. I also have got some yarn ready to go for a cardi V-neck. So I didn't look up who makes the cardi V-neck, but it is this like deep V-neck, super oversized honeycomb pattern. And so I'm going to make that, and I'm going to do it in, again, it asked for 3 strands of mohair. I wasn't going to do that because I like the stitch definition too much, but I did have a whole bunch of this lace weight. So this is, again, keeping it low cost. I think it's called Summer Lights, and it was on special at Spotlight for $2 for this lace weight yarn. It's all acrylic from memory. I can't find it. 82% acrylic and then polyester because it shimmers. Can't see it. Oh, there we go. It's got a shimmer through it. And it reminds me of a unicorn. And so I can totally wear a unicorn jumper. That sounds amazing. So I have some of this, and I've been playing Swatch Fest, trying to figure out the right combo of what I need in the pattern. Cardi V-neck by Anne Wenzel. And I had to buy the pattern from her website and make sure I bought the English version because she has lots of different languages, which is awesome sauce. So I've been playing with swatches. I've undone the swatch in the end, but I had to go up a needle size, which is most of the time I need to do that, just go up a bit because I need a bit tight and get the right combination, because it asked for 3 lace weights, but 3 of these was too much. And I ordered some purple. This is just acrylic. So it's like a fake mohair basically, again, but it's quite nice. And I'm going to do 2 of these and 1 of these, and go up a needle size. Between that, I can make a really beautiful honeycomb pattern. And so I'm going to do the Anne Wenzel Cardi B. Got stacks of that yarn. I got stacks of that mohair. I bought that purple mohair on AliExpress. It's called Diamond Mohair. I got a bag of 12 balls for $20. Super duper cheap, all in Australian dollars, obviously, everybody. And when I'm still playing with what I like and don't like, and just the active knitting, I don't mind. Like that kind of, like I said, the souffle and buying that yarn from drops or from overseas, because getting it in Australia is a pain, was the most cost-effective way to do it. It's my first time I've invested that level of money in a particular garment. And then it backfired. Lesson learned. That's okay. I know what to do in the future. So that's one of my other future knits. I've got the Cardi V, I've got the souffle, and then I would love to make a Sunday sweater. I think that's the Sunday sweater is also one of the super popular ones. And so again, at Spotlight, this though, this is 50% acrylic, 22% mohair, 20% merino. So it's like half not acrylic and other stuff. So this is called Abbey Road. Abbey Road is the Australian Spotlight version of like those budget type yarns. And it's all squishy. And I swatched for this as well. And the swatch came up really nice. It's got like a lot of texture. So like it's not a smooth thing. It's got bubbles and stuff. And so the Sunday sweater does that sunbeam type ray coming out. So I'd be able to keep track of the stitches of the sunbeam ray and then just go stockinette. And the little like slubby bits that are in amongst this, I think it'll come out quite nice. And there was a whole bunch of it. And like I said, it was like $3 a ball. So I bought a whole bunch. It's the right amount of yardage to do a Sunday sweater. Again, something nice and soft and fluffy. And it's not cold yet. So they are all of what I plan to do moving forward. But to get to that point, to cast those on, I'm going to clear some stuff first. So the first thing that I would like to do is finish off my daughter's bubble cardigan. It only needs the neckline done and then it's all hers, and her birthday is in 2 weeks. So I can finish that quite easily now that I've got everything that I need. So the next time I podcast, I'll have the bubble stitch finished, the bubble stitch cardigan finished. And I think that ranunculus is going to keep flying off the needles because it's just so fun. The yarn's so squishy. So good. So those are 2 given. And then I think when those 2 are clear, that will mean I'd like to finish off the poor old hokey pokey and get it done. Hopefully it will cool off enough that I can put the hokey pokey on my lap and get going. And it's highly likely that when I do that, I'll clear out some bags and I will want to start casting on. When that yarn comes, the souffle will be the next thing cast on. Like, that's happening straight away. I will swatch. I will make sure I get everything right before I go ahead. And I'm finding swatching really fun. And I've got all these this little collection of little swatches now. And I'm not writing what I'm doing on the swatch, but I am writing the notes of it in my Ravelry. So when I get the yarn and I make the project with the yarn and the pattern, and I put it in my queue, I am writing what I'm swatching as. So I'm keeping track of that. So if I go back and go, oh, what's that thing? It's all written in there. So that is the main part of my podcast. And now I just wanted to share some thoughts as a beginning knitter around something I've noticed on YouTube. And isn't it interesting? So my seasons are completely opposite to the majority of the people who podcast on the knitting blog podcast world. Most of the people are in the Northern Hemisphere, so in the exact opposite season. So when I started knitting at the beginning of this year, I saw a lot of people knitting sweaters and jumpers, and although it wasn't the right season, it's like, it's cool, because then if it takes me forever, I will be ready for winter. And it didn't take me forever because I actually fell in love with the hobby, and I've made so many things and make a little podcast about sharing what I'm doing. I think that moving, it's now interesting that after I've been doing this now for 5 months, seeing the change, because I was really disheartened by the fact that I couldn't find very many people talking about summer type yarns and knitting short sleeve things and how can I knit and have a hobby when I live in quite a warm climate. I found 2 people. One is actively still podcasting, which is the Harry Knit podcast, and she is in Malaysia. And so she speaks about how she's knitting and then using different kinds of yarn. And when I first started knitting, it was all just wool, mohair, moving forward, because that's what was in the season, because it's cooler and it was still very, very hot for us. So I'm like, well, maybe knitting, those other fibers isn't so crash hot, because I couldn't find evidence around me that it was a good idea to do. And now that that's starting to turn and I'm going into the cool weather and the Northern Hemisphere is going into the warm weather, it's actually really lovely now to see podcasts coming out about things I would have loved to know about 6 months ago. And so seeing people talk about their summer knits and what they're going to be doing and the yarns they're going to try using, it has been far more, it fills my heart to know that there are options. So it's kind of like I need to go back and watch those podcasts when I'm 6 months down the track, go back and watch other people's podcasts being released now, so that I have some idea of things I can knit with the cotton and the bamboo and all the rest of the things, all the plant fibers that people are using in summer. So I have loved seeing that happen because it gives me hope that when it starts to flip, I can knit with those things and make things that are super popular. However, as I say this, I'd love for you to help me out. If you are watching this and you know of some really great patterns that are not from Jessie Made, they are not that I don't want to wear little tiny tank tops. So I'm after things that are in the plant fiber variety. I'd love some bamboo and I've got some cotton bits and pieces ready to go, but I don't want the skimpy shoulders. And everyone's making those at the moment, the little straps. And although that's, yes, quite cool, that doesn't suit what I like to wear. And I do have a few of those, but I don't want to spend my time knitting them to not have them be able to be worn in places. So if you've got any ideas of any patterns that are, I could go some thick strap, like some like V-neck, no sleeve type things or short sleeve, but they've got to be long in the body and they can't be too fitted. So that's sort of where I would like to see some other styles come out and designs. There is a knit along going on with one of my favorite people to podcast watch, which is Knit Together with, oh no, I forgot the name. Knit Together with Kim and Jonah. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I remembered that. They're doing a knit along and they've chosen a summer top in a yarn that's by Mayak. And getting Mayak here in Australia, super duper hard, super expensive. And for a project my size, we're in the $150 range. And again, not there yet. So they are doing the Dingley Dell by Isabel Kramer. The Dingley Dell design, that looks good. So now I'm torn. Do I take part in the knit along to make something for summer? Or do I do a slightly longer version of it, like a longer sleeve version of it, so that is more seasonally appropriate that I can wear now? But then in saying that, I don't know how much long knitwear that I actually need given where I live and how the seasons have decided not to be quite so cool. So they're my thoughts at the moment about what I'm seeing a lot of. And there are so many different ways to get engaged in this community with all the different knit-alongs and other bits and pieces. I don't think I'm going to do another knit-along, mystery knit-along, until we get into Stephen West's one. I'm interested in one of those big Mama Jama projects and the amazing stitches and being part of one of those. Yes, I can buy the pattern. I can do it myself now, but I would rather do it with everybody else. So I'm going to maybe leave that for the time being. But then the other night I was also playing with maybe I make a grey shawl because I was thinking about, okay, what do I wear the most? And I have this grey scarf thing that I wear so much when it's cool. Maybe I should do something in grey because I know that it will then take place of that thing that it's getting a little old, still usable. Just keeping in mind of what a nice shawl pattern would be that isn't too, and the shape of the shawl too. What I noticed when I was wearing this is that because it's a big long rectangle, it does these ones like down long and I can pull it down. And so it sort of covers the shoulders. But I think I might want one that's a bit more like it starts in the center and then it sort of comes up and to the points. So it's like a big shape up because I feel like that would suit how I want it to sit when I'm, teaching in the classroom and other things. So yeah, just thoughts that I'm having around what I'm going to do moving forward. But next 2 weeks is ranunculus, bubble stitch cardigan, and then doing some more work on my hokey pokey so that I can make some more room to do some heavier things like my Sunday sweater. What were some of the other ones I want to do? A Sunday sweater, a Cardi V is kind of going to be, and a souffle as well. So they're all quite fluffy, wintry, nice things. And I'm due for some new tops at winter anyway. So I'm a bit excited to be able to make something. I'm just scared how hot it still is. So hopefully in the next few weeks it will cool down. I will see you at the end of May and the beginning of the June to show you where I'm up to. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Make sure you have any ideas of cool patterns that are for summer tops that are like wide. I love a V-neck, not a round neck. I love a V-neck, sleeve down, not too tight. Knitting something that is plant fiber. If you know of anything that you've worked really well or you've seen somebody else's podcast, head me in their direction. I'd love to see some bits and pieces. Other than that, have an awesome day. Knit lots, enjoy the knitting, and don't try and make it perfect. Just make it so it exists and you can enjoy it. All right. Bye, everybody.